this one looks a little bit different than the last time President Trump was on the cover as Time's Person of the Year. Trump's strengthening position prompted Biden to drop out of the race, and they cooed him out. He didn't drop out. They threw him out. Now Trump is going to be inviting China to come over here for the inauguration.
The 47th president-elect and the Person of the Year from Time, Donald J. Trump.
President Trump named Person of the Year again. Time putting together a massive article. You can see we'll parse through some of the highlights here, but they also have a new photo, which is catching everybody's attention because this one looks a little bit different than the last time President Trump was on the cover as Time's Person of the Year. This one looks nice. He has a glowing white background and he's looking down almost from on high, right? The perspective is Trump elevated, like he's in a regal position, an authoritative position, squaring up to face what is coming ahead. He can see with broad perspective. Now, you'll also notice that on this photo, what they didn't do like they did last time is the old devil horns that they shoved on his head the last time. So just compare and contrast the photos. Hans Monkey, an amazing follow over on X at Hans Monkey. You can follow him there. Captured the side-by-side of these two, right? Compare and contrast what they did back in 2016. He just had won the election. And this time in 2016, they put those devil horns on there, right? And it's a much different vibe on that photo. Here, it's a dark photo. You see the shadowy figure back on the wall. Trump is turning and looking over his shoulder, almost in a secretive demeanor, like he's hiding something. Very different. And one is clearly better than the other. One is editorialized. The other is, you might argue, editorialized. But the reversal is pretty shocking to see how they have shifted their perspective in just a few short years. So the article is very long, and we'll hit some of the highlights. And what I noticed here when we came here is they're integrating AI with their article. So if you want just a quick summary of the article, you just click over here, you click short, boom. This version of the article has been modified by Time. Here's their short AI version. It says Trump's unprecedented political comeback led to his victory in 2024, winning all 7 swing states, securing the popular vote for the first time a Republican in 20 years. Campaign broadened MAGA. We've got Latinos, black men, young voters, strategic decisions, RFK Jr., Elon Musk, and all the things, right? So you can just summarize this stuff nice and quickly. But the original article walks us through a slew of personal conversations and inner details. They say Mar-a-Lago was quiet 3 days before Thanksgiving. We were all getting ready for our feast, so were they. Trump's Moorish palace, they say, seemed all but deserted late that evening. The seaside estate's cavernous living room traversed intermittently by a junior staffer or silent aide. Totems to Trump were displayed everywhere. Framed magazines with him on the cover hung by the front door. On a table near the fireplace sat a cast bronze eagle awarded him by the singer Lee Greenwood. In the men's lavatory, a picture of him with Arnold Palmer hung near the urinals and so on. I mean, so there's a lot in this article. The world's most powerful man entered with an air of unhurried bonhomie. I think that's that word. Dressed in his trademark navy suit and red tie, Trump 78 appeared a little older than he had a couple months earlier, the last time he met with Time. There's some more photos of the president. He's got a ready explanation for his improbable resurrection. He even has a name for its climactic final act. I called it 72 Days of Fury, he says as the interview gets underway. We hit the nerve of the country. The country was angry. It wasn't just the MAGA faithful. Trump harnessed deep national discontent about the economy, immigration, cultural issues. His grievances resonated with suburban moms, retirees, Latino, black men, young voters, and more. Kellyanne Conway said he understands the cultural zeitgeist. Says Donald Trump is a complicated person with simple ideas, and way too many politicians are the exact opposite. Trump also promises to attack the sources abroad that he blames for the country's malaise, saying he's going to be America first. But much stands in his way. He's got narrow majorities in the House and the Senate. The public also remains a powerful check on the president. He's proved twice now that he can surf to power, but those closest to the president say that he will surprise people by fulfilling his promises. Most people don't, but he will, says Susie Wiles. Whether Trump can actually fix the root causes is another question. We'll see, and we'll be supporting his efforts. Trump was in a private cabin of his plane flying to an April 2nd campaign rally. The heading was not subtle. How a national abortion ban will cost Trump the election. Trump raised his eyebrows. A kind of a nasty title, huh? episode was a turning point. Where is Trump going to find his place on the issue of abortion? Someone said, let's do a video. So they made a video. By the summer, Trump had confidence of a man holding history in his hands. In late June, Joe Biden's weak debate performance spurred an open revolt among panicking Democrats. Trump survived an assassination attempt. There's another good photo. Mr. President. Trump's strengthening position prompted Biden to drop out of the race, and they cooed him out. He didn't drop out. Biden to drop out of the... They threw him out. Within a matter of days, Harris consolidated support, raising hundreds of millions of dollars. We now know via Act Blue they were accepting gift cards from foreigners, according to Mike Johnson. Trump is a devotee of Don Draper maxim, saying, if you didn't like what's being said, change the conversation. So he did. They brought in RFK, changed the dynamic. Now, the changing coalition you can see is depicted in the following graphic. Latino men swapped from plus 33 blue to plus 10 red. Woof. Major shifts among other demographics. Other new voters were devotees of Elon Musk who came in, poured $250 million into the campaign, turning X into a de facto campaign organ. Elon was critical. Strategists from both parties are divided over whether the Trump team's blueprint made the difference in a close race. Harris campaign chief Jen O'Malley said, we were up against a caricature of being dangerously liberal. Well, it wasn't really a caricature. That's your record. On election night, Trump campaign staff set up a war room in Trump's office in Mar-a-Lago, poring over incoming returns as the candidate schmoozed in the club's ballroom with Musk and Dana White. After North Carolina and Georgia shifted into his column, Trump peeked in. Anything concerning you? He asked. Nope, an aide said. Feel good? Good, said Trump. When he returned to the ballroom, the jubilant crowd was dancing to the YMCA by the Village People, a Trump rally staple that we've heard at length. The election gave Trump political capital to address sources of American discontent. One of the first official acts of his presidency, Trump tells Time, will be to pardon most of the rioters accused or convicted of storming the Capitol. Let's go. It's going to start in the first hour, he says, maybe the first 9 minutes. Trump also plans early actions to reverse many of Biden's executive orders and expand the drilling of oil on federal land. Mr. President, well done. Trump's most aggressive moves will be on immigration enforcement. He vows to tighten the U.S. border with Mexico through a slew of executive orders. While Posse Comitatus Acts forbids the deployment of military against civilians, Trump says he will be willing to enlist the military to round them up and deport the migrants. It doesn't stop the military if it's an invasion of our country, he says. I'll only do what the law allows, but I will go up to the maximum level of what the law allows. Trump tells Time he doesn't plan to restore the policy of separating children from families, but doesn't rule it out either. Talking about mass deportations on this scale, I'll get them into every country, Trump says, or we won't do business with those countries. They're going home, and if they don't accept them, they're done. Saying the operation is going to come at a steep cost. I wonder if they go into the cost of immigration and illegal immigration. Just how radical Trump can be depends on the buy-in of his Justice Department, who's going to be led by Pam Bondi, one of the defense attorneys on his first impeachment. Trump has vowed to seek retribution. Give me a break, Time. Give me a break. Saying the likes of Biden, Speaker Pelosi, Bragg, Jack Smith, and others will face investigation and potential prosecution. There's reasonable suspicion they committed crimes. What do you do when that happens? Well, you conduct an investigation. And if that investigation leads to probable cause, then we pursue a criminal complaint or an indictment via grand jury. And then they can make that determination. Trump was coy in his interview with Time about whether the DOJ will target his political adversaries. He says that's up to her. Either way, his victory, I'm totally independent from them. Just like they said, Joe Biden and Merrick Garland, totally independent, totally. But he worked for him though. So, doesn't matter. We're independent. Why? Because we said so. Okay. Trump is doing the same thing. It's their standard. Either way, his victory spells the end of federal prosecutions that charged him with crimes. Trump denied the allegations. Both cases were dismissed. Not terminated, dismissed. To dismantle the federal bureaucracy, Trump enlisted Vivek, and Musk and Ramaswamy are going to come in and they're going to self-terminate their own agency July 4th, 2026, which is going to be an epic birthday for America. Experts in government administration say the commission risks degrading the state's ability to function. Oh no. Yeah, that's the point. It's going to be harmful to the government's capacity to carry out the missions that Congress assigned by statute. And here we go again, I know. Scare the seniors. I know the seniors are going to starve to death. I know. Because if we get rid of government bureaucracy and unnecessary expenditures, suddenly our seniors are going to die immediately. Okay, that's what they do every time. If it's to panic a certain demographic so that they become allies in the cause. If the Musk-Ramaswamy Commission eliminates large numbers of civil servants, the government will likely have to rely on private companies instead. Okay. There's no guarantee that contractors are either going to be cheaper or more competent. Well, then we don't use those people. On the campaign trail, Trump said he would not order the DOJ to enforce the Cornstalk Act, a 19th century law that prohibits the mailing of abortion pills. When he spoke with Time before Thanksgiving, Trump's position on women's reproductive rights changed in the span of a few sentences. First, he left open the possibility that they could reverse approvals for medication and abortion, but then said it's highly unlikely. He's like, well, they could, but it's unlikely. We're going to take a look at all that, he said. Asked whether to clarify his commitment to preventing the FDA from stripping access to the pill, he said, it's always been my commitment, saying he might use executive action. If I have even a little bit of trouble, I go to an executive order because I can get it done. Well, what do you think about preserving the filibuster and all that stuff? Executive orders. It was a glimpse of how Trump's expansive view of the executive power will shape his second term when he meets inevitable obstacles. Some historian is saying, the idea of the imperial presidency is not new, but he's taking it further than anyone, says some guy named Julian. All right, from Princeton. Gosh. So reject that opinion because of his name and his school. He doesn't care about the kind restraints that still guided even Richard Nixon. None of that matters to him, so the potential is for an extraordinarily aggressive use of presidential power. Are you kidding me? Joe Biden was openly violating what the Supreme Court ordered him to do on student loans. Joe Biden had obligation under the law to secure the border. He was flying illegals into the country. For all the focus on Trump's domestic agenda, much of the activity when Time visited was on foreign affairs. The NSA waltz, the incoming NSA, ducked in and out of meetings. There was meetings with Vance, Steve Witkoff, special envoy to the Middle East, a source present there. They're going to solve the Middle East thing, watch. Many of Trump's answers to the nation's problems, including immigration and trade policies, rely on successful diplomacy. America First may be a campaign and a slogan, but ending forever wars and boosting U.S. economic advantage requires working with others, which sounds like what he's doing right now. I bet there's more activity happening there than at the White House. Trump's plans threaten to upend relationships with allies and trading partners because he wants to make Canada a state again. And not again, but you know what I mean. A move most economists predict will cause prices to rise. He plans to increase tariffs on Chinese imports, aiming to coerce manufacturers to make their products in the United States, which is what should happen. On the campaign trail, Trump liked to brag about brokering a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine in 24 hours. Let's see. In person, he acknowledged that's a little trickier than he let on. He said, quote, the Middle East is an easier problem to handle than what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, he says. The number of dead young soldiers lying on fields all over the place are staggering. He said it's crazy what's taking place. Trump criticized Kyiv for launching U.S.-made missiles into Russian territory last month. I disagree very vehemently with sending missiles hundreds of miles into Russia. Why are we doing that, he says. We're just escalating this war and making it worse. When pressed on whether or not he would abandon Ukraine, Trump says he would use U.S. support for Ukraine as leverage against Russia in negotiating an end to the war. I want to reach an agreement, he says, and the only way you're going to reach an agreement is to not abandon. In phone calls with the campaign, Trump told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin to wind down the war in Gaza by the time of his inauguration, a timeline that now looks highly unlikely. We'll see if that happens. In Israel and the U.S., many suspect Netanyahu is prolonging the fighting to prevent snap elections that could result in his ouster. He knows I want it to end, Trump tells Time. When asked whether he trusts Netanyahu going into a second term, Trump takes a second before answering. I don't trust anybody. Trump also wants to expand the Abraham Accords that he brokered between Israel and several Arab states to include Saudi Arabia, but he's less specific on a resolution between Israel and the Palestinians. In his first term, he put forth the most comprehensive plan for a two-state solution since Bill Clinton and prevented Netanyahu from extending Israeli sovereignty over 30% of the West Bank. But on November 12th, he nominated incoming ambassador Mike Huckabee, a zealous supporter of the settlement movement, advocates for Israel annexing the West Bank. So the sudden collapse of Assad in Syria adds another layer. It brings to power a rebel group once affiliated with al-Qaeda, but also marks yet another setback for an Iranian regime already weakened. Some analysts fear the losses may make Iran more likely to push for a nuclear weapon. Since Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal in 2018, Tehran has edged ever closer to acquiring a nuclear weapon. As of April, the International Atomic Energy Agency estimated that Tehran has enough weapons-grade uranium to build a bomb in a matter of weeks. Iran and its proxies have waged a multi-front war against Israel and have targeted U.S. assets in the region. During the presidential campaign, the Iranians plotted to assassinate Trump, but how come they didn't have any real success on that? Or was that Crooks? Or was that Ruth? Or how did Ruth and Crooks get closer than the Iranian government did, especially if the Iranians have motherships of drones flying overhead? While the president-elect prides himself on not entering into any new wars in his first term, he leaves open the possibility that one may be necessary in a second. Asked about the chances of war with Iran, Trump pauses, then replies, anything can happen. By the time dinner's approaching, the crowd has swelled in Mar-a-Lago. It's a buzzing King's Court. Job seekers camp out on sofas, waiting to buttonhole Howard Lutnick. What? The Wall Street executive who co-chairs his transition. Lutnick, who is also Trump's chosen Commerce Secretary, has been tasked by Trump with vetting cabinet appointees. And so here are the people who are part of the inner circle. James Blair, Deputy Chief of Staff under Susie Wiles. Pam Bondi, incoming AG, replacing Merrick Garland. Taylor Budowich, Deputy Chief of Staff for Comms and Personnel. Tom Homan, new border czar. Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary. Stephen Miller, Policy. Elon, Doge. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. We've got J.D. Vance, Russ Vought, Mike Waltz at NSA, and there's Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff. Trump has selected unconventional nominees: Hegseth, Gabbard, Cash, Kennedy, Rubio, Bessonette, and others. Trump abandoned Gates withdrew because of the allegations. Trump says he's going to honor the Senate's role in confirming or rejecting his appointment, but does not rule out using recess appointments. Says, I really don't care how they get approved, as long as they get them approved. Are recess appointments off the table? No. He's not going to accept being jerked around. All right? All right. Trump says he will not ask members of his administration to sign a formal loyalty pledge. I think I will be able to, for the most part, determine who's loyal. Anyone who gets crosswise with him will be gone in short order. That includes firing not only his own cabinet secretaries and political appointees, but also civil servants. If they're not following my policies, absolutely, they're fired. Trump's aggressive use of presidential powers will test the judiciary. All right, the last line of defense against actions that threaten constitutional norms. What do you mean, like prosecuting presidents, violating executive immunity, presidential immunity, breaching attorney-client privilege, raiding a president's home? His critics worry that even if high court strikes the president's actions, the Justice Department may not enforce the rulings. You mean like when the Supreme Court said you can't just unilaterally get rid of student loans and they kept doing it anyways? Trump and his aides are getting ready for an onslaught of lawsuits from groups who are coming at him. One Trump official says, we're constrained by realities of government and process in certain ways, but he's going to try to do big stuff, baby. With unified control of Washington, there will be more pressure on Trump to deliver. Donald Kettle, some expert from Maryland, argues that Americans are not prepared for the level of disruption that Trump's second stint in the White House is poised to bring. Changes in education system? Good, check that one. Revisiting routine childhood vaxes? Good, check that one. Which Kennedy brought up. The scale of change is going to be unprecedented. The implications for government are enormous. Perfect. Hopefully he's right. Voters believe the government is wasteful and untrustworthy, he says. Yes. But if Trump follows through, you could end up with blowback very quickly that affects the lives of lots of ordinary Americans. All right. But by the end of Trump's first term, voters were exhausted by the chaos and the antics and COVID. And it's because the Democrats rigged the first term with fake Russia collusion hoaxes, fake impeachments, fake insurrection, lies about COVID, and censorship. It was insane. He left office with a low approval rating, and now everybody's woken up, I think. Everybody goes, oh yeah, Trump was right about all that stuff. Trump's victory in November may be partly the product of short memories for his part, or long memories, rather. I think it's actually long memories. People realize, they go, you know what? Darn it. He was right. The Justice Department is weaponized. Look what Joe Biden did. People are above the law. We can use the same words, but maybe it's a look in your eye that works. They say Trump said lowering the price of groceries. You know, he's saying he's walking back his promises. Well, it's hard to bring things down once they're up. You know, it's very hard. If its approach doesn't work and Trump feels boxed in, critics worry he might become more extreme. To his closest aides, the president-elect's unpredictable style will give him an edge. People are genuinely afraid if they don't listen to him, bad things can happen. And there are consequences for disregarding him, says Vance. Great. It's how it should be. You don't just get to go say stuff and it means nothing. What kind of leader is that? Faced with challenges of governing, Trump seems almost wistful that his last campaign is behind him. He says it's sad in a way. He says of his election win, as the shadows begin to fall on him in the manicured lawns around his mansion, it will never happen again. But a lot can happen in 4 years under President Donald J. Trump. All right, so that's Time Magazine, Trump Person of the Year. I think we got the good, juicy bits out of there, basically hit the whole thing. And it is a very stark contrast than what it was in 2016. Even the photos show the distinction. A lot more uplifting profile of him, and we didn't see much rejecting 2020 or J6 insurrection or classified document stuff, right? It's kind of an interesting article looking forward and a much different tone, because as we said, I think the country is in a different place, realizing who is right on many of these issues. Now, Trump is going to be inviting China to come over here for the inauguration. Don't know if they'll fly one of their balloons or drones over, or if he'll just take a regular airplane or what. But he's coming over, or being invited over. We'll see if he comes. Says Trump has invited Xi Jinping from China to come over. Invited him in early November, shortly after the election, but it was not clear whether he accepted the invitation. They contacted the Chinese embassy, who didn't comment on it. Transition spokesperson Carolyn Levitt told CBS News that he was invited, saying this is an example of Trump creating an open dialogue. World leaders are lining up to meet with Trump. They know he'll soon return to power. Ambassadors and other diplomats are usually invited. We'll see what happens. Trump has also long believed leader-to-leader relationships are important to governance. And so we'll see if China comes over and visits for the inauguration. Now, elsewhere, Trump went to the New York Stock Exchange and was the first to do so since Ronald Reagan, about to ring in a new era of prosperity. And here's a short clip from this portion of the signing.
You will be excited to know that you are the first president to ring the bell since Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, March 28, 1985, where he addressed the floor. Yes, it's a great honor to have you. You will be
a great honor to have you, Mr. President. So that was there. Here is another portion of the event.
The 45th President of the United States, 47th President-elect, and the Person of the Year from Time, Donald J. Trump.
And I'm proud to be an American,
where at least I know I'm free. All right, so they're coming out. So it's the president, and I think this was at the New York Stock Exchange, although it looks kind of like Mar-a-Lago, right, with all that gold everywhere. Anyways, beautiful building. So they're walking out. Let's fast forward past the music. The whole crowd is there, and there's President Trump and Melania in the house, and here's just a short statement from the president. All right, so here he is.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. This is an honor, a tremendous honor. I brought some of our compatriots along with us. They're going to do a beautiful job for you for the next 4 years.
All right, so RFK is back there, and here was another interview. I think that's with Kramer, with Melania on scene.
I think so. We're going to do something great with crypto because we don't want China or anybody else, and not just China, but others are embracing it, and we want to be the head. We're going to be ahead of AI. We're going to be way ahead of AI, and we've got to produce tremendous amounts of electricity. You know that. It's unbelievable when you think that we need more than twice what we already have. If you think that's pretty for a specific industry, but we'll be able to do it. We have Lee Zeldin in charge of the environment, be giving us very strong approvals, I think, and he's going to make sure everything's good and clean and proper, but he's going to give us very fast approvals.
All right, so a busy morning for the president, and there was a bunch of activity. Here's a little bit more.
We're going to cut them very substantially. We got them down to 21% from probably 42 or 44%, depending on where you are, and we got them down to 21. Everyone said that was a miracle. Now we're getting them down to 15, but only if you make your product here. Otherwise, you pay 21, which is not bad. It's in the middle of the pack, but 15 brings you down to among the lower. And for those that are running the big companies, those great, big, beautiful companies, nobody's going to be leaving us. You're going to be coming back. You're going to be bringing it back to the United States. We are incentivizing everybody to come back to the United States.
Let's
we want
go.
you back here. Car manufacturers, everybody. And we have one product that nobody has really to the extent that we do. It's called oil and gas. There is no country in the world that has more. We're number one. I brought it to number one during my first term in terms of production. We're going to be number one plus. We'll do numbers that nobody will really see before. And when that happens, prices are going to start coming down because people can't afford their groceries, and they're going to be affording their groceries very soon. I tell the story about a woman an old woman, no money, went to a grocery store, had 3 apples. She put them down on the counter, and she looked, and she saw the price, and she said, "Would you excuse me?" And she walked one of the apples back to the refrigerator and came back to pay for the 2 apples, and she left with 2 apples. And the woman at the counter said that was so sad. And when I heard about the story, I said, that should never happen in America, and it's not going to happen in America. We're going to do it right, and we're going to take care of our people, and we're going to do things that nobody ever thought even were possible. But we're going to have an economy the likes of of which nobody's ever seen before, and everybody's coming back to America. I saw that the other day at the cathedral. They're all saying, we want to come back. And with a couple of changes done by Howard and Scott and some of the great people up here with me, we're going to bring them all back. They're all coming back. So thank you very much. This is a great honor, and ringing the bell will be fantastic. And go out and get them. We're with you all the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amazing. So awesome stuff. And then he was there at the stock exchange, and I guess he does ring a bell.
The incoming leader of the free world. He's going to ring the bell here in about 20 seconds. An historic moment.
Here it is.
At the New York Stock Exchange as we get this opening bell rung by the President-elect, Donald Trump.
Let's do it, Mr. President. Yeah! All right, good. Amazing. So Trump was there at the stock exchange, ringing the bell in, and that was fun to watch happen. We're excited to have this economy bursting at the seams again, and the president is leading the way. Man of the year, person of the year, on time, well-deserved. We're here for it.